Elena Voss had always known she was different from the other wolves in Blackthorn territory. She healed instead of hunted. She listened instead of commanded. When the pack elders spoke of strength, they meant claws and teeth. Elena believed strength lived somewhere quieter, in the steady hands that stitched wounds, and the calm voice that talked frightened pups through their first shift. She never wanted power. She only wanted to belong. That was why, on the night she felt the bond snap into place between herself and Alpha Daemon Blackthorn, she wept with joy instead of fear. A fated mate bond was rare, sacred, spoken of in old stories as a gift from the moon itself. When Daemon found her at the edge of the training grounds and looked at her as though he was seeing color for the first time, Elena believed her quiet life was about to become something extraordinary. For 3 weeks it was. Daemon visited her at the healing house every evening. He carried firewood he did not need to carry, just so he had a reason to linger. He asked her opinions on pack matters that no one else bothered to ask her about. He made her laugh, really laugh, in a way she had almost forgotten how to do. Elena let herself hope. She let herself imagine a future standing beside him, not behind him. Then the Elder Council called a meeting, and the ground fell out from under her. The rival Ashwood territory had grown powerful in the north, and old tensions threatened to boil into war. The council had found a solution, or so they called it, a treaty. A marriage. Seraphine, daughter of the Ashwood Alpha, would become Daemon's second mate, sealing peace between the two territories with pack law and blood oath. Elena was invited to that meeting, only so she could be told the outcome. She was not asked. She was not given a choice. The eldest councilman, a stern wolf named Corvin, told her plainly that a fated bond was beautiful, but it did not override the needs of the pack. She could remain as Daemon's first and true mate, he said, as though that word true meant anything at all. She would simply need to share him, share his time, share his title. Share his heart, apparently, the way one might share a meal or a roof. Elena looked at Daemon when Corvin said this. She waited for him to argue, to stand, to say that fated bonds were not divided like territory on a map. Instead, Daemon stared at the table. His jaw was tight, his hands curled into fists beneath it, but he said nothing. Later he told her he had no choice, that refusing meant war, that pack law bound him tighter than his own wishes. He said he was sorry. He said he still loved her. He asked her to be patient, to understand, to wait quietly on the side while he did what needed to be done. Elena listened to every word. Then she made a decision that surprised even herself. She would not wait on the side of anything. She did not scream or beg, or fight the council in some dramatic show of defiance. She simply began to prepare. Quietly, methodically, the same way she prepared salves and remedies, she gathered what she needed. She spoke with the pack's outcasts, the wolves who had been passed over, dismissed, or exiled for reasons that had nothing to do with their worth. She spoke with rejected mates who understood exactly what it felt like to be told their bond was not enough. She spoke with young wolves who wanted a future built on something other than bloodline and old law. 3 weeks after the council's decision, on the morning Seraphine was to arrive in Blackthorn territory for the formal engagement ceremony, Elena was gone. She left no dramatic note, no bitter accusations carved into a door. She left only a short letter for Daemon, 1 line long. It said, "I deserve to be chosen, not divided. I hope you find peace with your choice. I have made mine." Daemon searched for her, or so the rumors said. He sent trackers into the borderlands. He sat for hours at the healing house, long after it was clear she would not return. But Elena had learned enough from years of tending wounds to know how to disappear when she needed to, and the pack law that bound Daemon to Seraphine bound him to Blackthorn territory as well. He could not chase her without abandoning the very treaty he had sacrificed her for. In the end, duty kept him rooted exactly where the council wanted him. Elena walked for 11 days before she found the land that would become her home. It was not much at first, an overgrown valley at the edge of nowhere, claimed by no pack, wanted by no one. The soil was rocky, the winters long, the isolation almost complete. But Elena did not need much. She needed a place where no one would tell her whom she was allowed to love and whom she was allowed to be. She built a small cabin with her own hands. using skills she had never expected to need. She healed her blistered palms the same way she healed everyone else's wounds, with patience and time. Word travels strangely among shifters. It moves through scent trails and shared glances, through wolves who cross paths at territory borders, and pass along whispers like gifts. Within a year, other outcasts began to find her valley. A healer who had been cast out of her own pack for refusing to choose violence over care. 2 brothers exiled for a crime their younger sibling had actually committed. A young Omega wolf who had spent her whole life being told she was worth less than an alpha, simply because of how she was born. Elena did not turn any of them away. She had been the one no one fought for. She understood, more than most, what it meant to need somewhere safe to land. Slowly, the valley became something more than a hiding place. It became a home. Then it became a village. Then, as the seasons turned again and again, it became a territory in its own right, one that answered to no council and bowed to no ancient law, that treated love as something to be portioned out like rations. Elena never called herself an alpha. She did not need the title. The wolves who lived there simply followed her because she had earned it. One kindness, one hard decision, one sleepless night at a time. She named the place Ashvale, after the ash trees that lined the valley's edge, and under her care, it prospered in ways no one, least of all Elena herself, could have predicted. Meanwhile, in Blackthorn territory, prosperity was harder to find. The marriage between Damon and Seraphine had secured peace with Ashwood, just as the council promised. But peace, Damon learned, was not the same as happiness, and a treaty was not the same as a partnership. Seraphine had never wanted him the way he had wanted Elena. She had wanted the title, the territory, the influence that came with standing beside an alpha. She ruled at his side with sharp ambition and little warmth, making decisions that strengthened her own standing more often than they strengthened the pack. Damon watched, over the years, as loyal wolves quietly requested transfers to other territories, as disputes that Elena would have settled with a single conversation dragged into bitter feuds under Seraphine's cold judgment, as the warmth that had once made Blackthorn feel like a true home slowly drained out of it, replaced by formality and suspicion. He told himself, for a long time, that this was simply the price of duty, that he had made the responsible choice, even if it had not made anyone happy, least of all himself. It was not until the 7th year that Damon finally admitted the truth. He had not chosen duty over love. He had chosen fear over courage. Fear of the council. Fear of war. Fear of being the alpha who broke tradition instead of upholding it. And in choosing fear, he had let go of the one person who had ever made him feel like more than a title. By then, the stories of Ashvale had reached even Blackthorn's borders. A territory led by a woman who asked for loyalty instead of demanding it. A haven for wolves the old systems had discarded. Some of the stories mentioned her by name. Damon heard it the way one hears a name they have tried for years not to think about, and something in his chest, long buried under duty and routine, cracked open all at once. The chance to see her again came sooner than he expected, and not in the way he would have chosen. A dispute broke out over shared hunting grounds along the border between Ashvale and Blackthorn territory, a disagreement that threatened to turn into open conflict if it was not resolved. As alpha, Damon was obligated to attend the negotiation. When he learned who would be representing Ashvale, his hands went cold for the first time in years. Elena walked into the negotiation tent with the same quiet steadiness he remembered, though everything else about her had changed. She stood taller. She spoke without hesitation, without the careful softness she had once used to avoid taking up too much space. She looked at him not with old wounds in her eyes, but with the calm, unreadable expression of someone who had long ago stopped needing his approval to know her own worth. The negotiation itself was brief and fair. Elena proposed a solution that benefited both territories equally, one that Damon suspected she had already worked out days before the meeting even began. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. Every wolf in that tent, including Damon, understood that they were not negotiating with someone beneath them. They were negotiating with an equal. When the formal business ended, and the others filed out, Damon asked if he could speak with her alone. Elena allowed it, though her expression made it clear she expected nothing from the conversation beyond words. He told her everything, that the council's law had been unjust from the beginning, and that he had known it even as he agreed to follow it. That the years with Seraphine had been a slow lesson in what a bond without true choice actually cost. That not a single season had passed without him thinking of the letter she left. One line that had haunted him more than any punishment the council could have handed down. He told her he had dissolved his arrangement with Seraphine months earlier, not because the treaty required it, but because he could no longer pretend a forced bond was any kind of life at all. He did not ask her to come back to Blackthorn. He understood, finally, that Ashvale was hers, built by her own hands out of the very rejection he had allowed to happen. Instead, he asked if he might be given the chance to know her again, not as an alpha entitled to her time, but as a man who understood he had no right to expect forgiveness, only the possibility of earning it. Elena listened to all of it without interrupting. When he finished, she did not answer right away. She looked out at the valley beyond the tent, at the home she had built out of nothing, while he had ruled a kingdom he had let hollow itself out from the inside. Finally, she spoke. She told him that the woman who had once waited quietly for whatever scraps of him she was allowed no longer existed, and that she did not miss her. She told him that Ashvale did not need Blackthorn's alliance, and she did not need his apology to keep thriving. But she also told him that she was not a woman who let old wounds decide her future for her, either. If he wanted to know her again, she said, he could not simply arrive as an alpha asking for an audience. He would have to come to Ashvale itself, learn the territory she had built, meet the wolves who called it home, and see whether the man standing before her was someone worth knowing at all, separate from any title, any treaty, any old fated bond. She made him no promises. She offered him no guarantee that history could be undone. But she left the gate open, just barely, for a man willing to earn his way through it. Damon returned to Blackthorn that evening changed. For the first time in 7 years, he felt something other than duty guiding his steps. He did not know if Elena would ever choose him again. He understood, with a clarity that both humbled and steadied him, that this time, the choice would be entirely hers, made freely, on her own ground, in her own time. And for the first time since the night the council had tried to divide what should never have been divided, that felt like exactly the way it should be.